So I wanted to dedicate a podcast episode to my pet jumping spider that just passed away, and kind of go over the brief story of our time together. So to start off, I adopted Speck, who was a little zebra jumping spider, zebra stripe. He's black with some white spots on him. I adopted him September 26th of this year, 2024, and it was my first time ever owning a spider or even like a pet bug or anything. The only pets I've had personally that I had that weren't like family pets at my parents' house were and are currently my two pet rabbits. And before that, at my parents' house, we always had like cats, dogs occasionally. Well, dogs still currently, I guess. We did have rabbits growing up. My parents had them in like a hutch outside, and that was pretty much it growing up as a kid. Nowadays, at my parents' house, it's literally a zoo over there. Like, one of my brothers has like a whole farm outside. They have pigs, they have turkeys, they have roosters, they have I think they have a road runner, which is weird. And my sister has like a bunch of lizards and stuff like that. They have like guinea pigs and whatever. They've just like my parents just say, you know what, fuck it, we don't care anymore. And we're mostly negligent of our pets anyway. At least growing up they were, and so they're just like, yeah, have whatever you want. So, but I never really got a pet myself outside of the rabbits. And then beforehand, when I did live with my parents, I did have I had like four pet rats. I had a rat named Tia, a rat named Kalulu, and then I had Emmy and Rin that I adopted for a while, but eventually ended up giving them back to the person I adopted them for because I just couldn't keep up with four rats in my small bedroom. I couldn't handle the additional smell. I didn't have the space for four rats because, they were two separate enclosures. The point being is I've had mammals. I've never had like a bug or a lizard or much. I guess I had a betta fish at one point, but whatever. Anyway, so I adopted Speck because I saw TikTok videos of jumping spiders. I think her name was the spider's name was Rose, and how Rose passed away I think this year. And I was at work and I definitely got misty eyed looking at this dead spider, and I'm like, God damn it, the jumping spider is so cute. And as I've gotten older and just like I've always had an appreciation for life, but I never had quite the respect for all life that, one should have. And, I would always try to avoid killing bugs. Like if I saw a cricket or a grasshopper, I wouldn't intentionally try to kill it. I mean, hell, back when I was in grade school, I think like third grade, coming in from recess, there'd be a June bug on the steps to get into the back entrance of my school, and there'd be a June bug just chilling there. He was already there before the kids would arrive, and then I'd be like, "Oh, look at this bug! He's so cool! He's big! He's so strong!" And then one a kid I went to school with, not a friend, just stomped on it and killed it, and I was upset about that. And I always have been. I like all pretty much all living things as much as I can, justify liking them, unless they're trying to kill me, or if they're in my bedroom, I don't want them. Um, but spiders have always been that weak point for me, like many other people. And I could handle things with multiple legs. I wasn't afraid of centipedes. I mean, I was afraid of them biting me, but like I don't want to get bit. And I'm afraid of them like waking up and having bugs in my bed or something. But spiders were always a thing where I grew up with a primal fear of spiders. And a lot of that I assume to be learned behavior because my parents were afraid of spiders. My dad was grossed out by spiders, and that which perpetually made everybody else have a distrust and a fear of spiders. You see them portrayed evilly in media. The only positive spider I saw was like Charlotte and Charlotte's Web, and I don't remember that, and or Aragog from Harry Potter, but then he quickly betrays everyone, just like, oh well, I guess we're gonna eat you. I fucking sick the spiders on them. So always spiders always rub me the wrong way. But again, getting older, I've just been seeing them in a different light. I've been shifting my perspective, and jumping spiders helped a lot with that. I always saw videos of them on TikTok of them like jumping between their owner's fingers and having them do like their little dances and look all curious. Just like to see curiosity in an animal's eyes is something so just like enlightening to what they really are. You look at it and you go, "Oh, you're like aware of your surroundings and you're intuiting your surroundings." you're just a little guy. You're just a little creature that's just trying to survive. You don't want to hurt me. I don't want to hurt you. Sorry about my computer making that noise. Um, you don't want to hurt me. You're not wanting to scare me. We're in each other's space, and that's all that is. So, and I know what also helps was, TikTokers putting that really cute, childish voiceover of the spiders, like, "Mommy, mommy, look at the thing I did." Blah blah blah. Like all that stuff makes them just inherently makes them. You can make any animal way less scary by giving them like a well written, cute voice, a cute narration for their inner monologue. You can make a lot of animals less scary that way, and I would say indefinitely so. And so I saw that, and I was just like, man, I would like to get a jumping spider. I don't know the first thing about owning them. And then I saw my friend Sav post on Snapchat, I think, how they got a jumping spider, and I saw that and went, well, that's it. I'm gonna look into getting one. So I looked into it, and it's expensive. Starting off to get like a grown spider, being like a year or so old, was like $90, which is expensive, but there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot that goes into actually getting them to survive that long, as I have found out recently because mine passed away. So eventually, I went through and I got a few things. Like I got an enclosure, and I ordered a hatchling spider, which is not the best idea for most people unless you're like breeding, starting like a spider colony or something. You don't get a hatchling. And I mean, when I say hatchling, if I could describe the size, I would say um, a little bigger than a dull pencil tip. He arrived so small, and he was in a 2-ounce cup, and I could barely see him in there. He was so small. Like literally, I could blow on him and send him across the room and lose him forever. I go, "Whew," and he'd be gone forever. So he arrived, and I had like an enclosure, but obviously I wasn't going to be able to put this like tiny thing in an enclosure yet. I had that for when he got older. So I got him, and I saw it. I was like, oh my God, you are absolutely puny. Now, I didn't know whether it was a male or female. I wouldn't have been able to tell until later. And I'm still not even sure technically whether or not he was a male or female. I just kind of looked at him and thought, I think you're a male because of this particular pattern on your abdomen. But I wasn't sure. Again, still new to this. Could have been a female, I don't know. But my original plan was if I wanted to I was hoping it would be a female, and I would name them Matilda. And I thought that was a really cute spider name, and also from the movie Matilda, which was one of my favorite movies growing up. So immediately what happened was I get him in the 2-ounce cup, and I go, okay, I know that they build their nests and their webs at the top of an enclosure. So with it being in a 2-ounce cup with a lid, I have to remove the lid every time I need to like feed him or check on him or whatever have you. So I can't have this lidded thing in here because he'll build his nest and it'll get ripped apart and he'll have an easier chance of escaping when I'm popping off the lid and whatever. So I opened it gently, and I was going to move him into a much bigger container that I had flipped over, like it was a small Tupperware bowl that I had flipped over onto a Tupperware lid, so that I had an access point from the bottom. I would just lift it up, and he would be on the top and nowhere to escape. And I would lift it up and just have the bottom open, and then put whatever I needed to feed him, to water whatever, in through the bottom. That was my plan. So I opened up the 2-ounce lid, and I'm nervous as shit, and I have shaky hands already. And again, he's tiny, and I'm holding him like he's on the lid, on the underside of the 2-ounce cup lid, and I rotated to look at him, and I go, my God, you are like the size of a pupil. And then as I went to adjust it in my hand, the 2-ounce cup lid kind of bounced in my hand, just from like me adjusting and trying to get it oriented correctly to move how I needed it to. It like springed a little bit, and I saw him go yeet, and he just fell to the floor, and I stood still. Time froze. I'm like, there's no fucking way I just dropped something the size of a fucking speck of pepper. Like, he's not actually a small, like a speck of pepper, but imagine trying to find a speck of pepper in a carpet. That's basically what I was dealing with. I have videos on the channel where you can see just how small he was. If you want to check that out, my YouTube, Linkins Legion. There'll be a playlist for the jumping spider or Speck or whatever have you. There'll be a playlist. I'll link that down below if you're listening on Spotify. And anyway, so he falls, and I go into full panic. And I take like 2 steps back, realizing I could step on him anywhere I put my knee to bend down, could crush him. And I grab my brightest flashlight, and I just kind of hunch down as carefully as I can. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm like freaking out. And I'm literally scraping my eyeball across the fibers of the carpet looking for this spider. And after like a couple minutes, I almost give up hope. I'm like, he's gone. He's fucking gone. I'm not gonna be able to find him. And then I do eventually see him wrapped in like the fibers of my carpet with his little tiny microscopic legs flailing like, help me, help me, help, dad, help. And so I see him, I go, stay right there. And I align the cup lid with him. I get it as close to him as I can. He grabs on, he climbs into it, and he bounces himself a little bit because he's like freaking out. So then I airlift him out of there on the 2 ounce cup lid, and I put him in the big container, and I secure it, and I'm sweating. I'm like, don't you ever do that to me again, young man. Meanwhile, it was my fault, but like, don't you ever scare me like that. So immediately, within the first few minutes of getting him, traumatized. Both of us are traumatized. I almost lose him, and he gets lost. Hell on earth, this guy's gonna be a handful already. So, and as of yet, the spider is unnamed, and I'm trying to think of names for if it's a male. And I'm going about, and over the course of like a week or so, now my timelines may be a little bit messed up. I don't remember all the time, but over a short amount of time, while he's inside his little overturned Tupperware container, I decided on the name Speck because he is just a speck. And imagine trying to find a speck lost in the carpet. That's how that went. I named him Speck, and I thought it was appropriate and cute. So fast forward a little bit, and he's in his container, and he's big enough to where I put in wingless fruit flies for him to eat. And he does eat one. He gets them, and he's doing his thing, and everything seems to be going well. I notice him getting a little bit bigger, like big enough to where I think I might be able to move into a different enclosure, into the one that I got. But the one I got is still too big. So I buy a smaller version of the one that I got, and I struggle, but I do move him in there. I keep it on my desk so he's near me, so he can see me, so I can see him, and we're hanging out and everything's good. Now, keep in mind, this is a container that comes in a bunch of I think 6 plastic slabs that you attach together with air holes drilled out of it, and you attach it together and use these really tight rubber bands to clamp the brackets of the actual walls together to assemble it, whatever. And so I have him in there, and we're actually playing on stream. We're playing the new Devour map on Steam. So I'm looking over at him while we're playing the game, while I'm streaming, just kind of always checking on him, always keeping an eye to make sure he's okay. And I see him, but he looks weird. I see him on the top of the enclosure, because it's all clear plastic, remember? So I see him, and I'm like, why does he look different than normal? So I kind of angle myself a little bit, and I realize he's on top of the enclosure. He's on top of the enclosure. He's on the outside of it. I'm like, oh no. So I go into full panic, and I don't even remember exactly how, but I was able to use a paintbrush to gesture him to where he needed to be and got him. Actually, I remember how there is a little rotating magnetic latch on the top of it that has a circle cutout, so I can do quick feeds. I could drop stuff in through the top of it without having to actually open up the drawbridge style front door on the outer front of it. So I use my paintbrush to tease him towards that opening, and I get him to go back inside, and I'm freaking out how the actual fuck did you get out? So then that causes me to take an even closer look at the enclosure and realize that as how it's assembled, there are a bunch of really small, I would say I don't even know, 16th of an inch size gaps, varying in size, 16 inch, 16th of an inch, a little bit bigger than that, a little bit smaller, everywhere that the walls connect to each other. So there's I went from thinking it was secure to there being 85 fault points. Now keep in mind, it does have I don't know, 30 air holes drilled into it, and I knew those holes might be a little bit too big, so might be able to sneak out of those. So before I built it, I used some clear Scotch tape on the inside of to cover the holes, and then I used a small dental tool, like a plaque scraper, to poke smaller holes in the tape covering the bigger holes, so there would still be air, so he couldn't crawl through those. And so if I did tape on the outside and he tried to go through the hole, he wouldn't get stuck on the tape. So I already had that secured. But unfortunately, he did manage to squeeze his little booty through smaller gaps in the actual framework of it where they were assembled and supposed to be pressed together. Again, keep in mind these enclosures are meant for a bigger bug, but I thought, oh, it'll be okay, and I didn't realize that I had those gaps. So I spent like 20 minutes on stream cutting and folding pieces of paper to slot into those gaps and filling every gap I could. Like, you should have seen this thing when I was done with it. It was horrendous. Like, it was a giant mess, but I thought I had it all secured, and I had a full panic. I got him in there and whatever. So me and this dude are already beefing. He does not want to stay in his enclosure, and I don't want to lose him and have him die. Oh, I should also say, I didn't mention before that yes, the price of a jumping spider is like $80 or 60 to 90 or whatever, depending for like an adult or close to an adult. I got this one as a hatchling for about $17. Got him really cheap because he was a hatchling and because the death rate for hatchlings is much higher than an adult because the adult's already survived, and the hatchling, a lot of things can go wrong. Clearly, a lot of things can go wrong. So I keep him in that, and then for a little while longer, for like a couple weeks, I think he's secure, but I'm paranoid, so I'm checking on it constantly. I'm always looking to make sure he's in there. If I don't see him for a millisecond, I freak out until I find him. And one day, I couldn't find him, and I actually spent, I think, a total of 3 hours that day looking in the enclosure and looking around my room trying to find him, realizing he escaped and he's gone. He just disappeared, and I did not know what to do. This is the second time he's escaped, and this time he was not just on the outside of the enclosure like he was the first time. This dude is going on an adventure, and he's gone. And I'm holding out hope. Again, keep in mind this is weeks later. I've probably had him for a month and a half at this point. We're into October, and probably closer towards the end of October. I don't remember the exact timeline, but yeah, he's gone. He fully escapes again. And I keep doing my normal cycle, turning on my little heat lamp, spraying water in there, and dropping in fruit flies, hoping that he's actually just going into his little hibernation to molt, because a lot of times they'll disappear inside their enclosure because they're molting, and you won't be able to find them because they pack themselves real tightly in a little white web somewhere where they feel safe, and they'll just be gone. So I thought maybe he's in there, maybe I really just can't find him, but no. Weeks, I think about 7 to anywhere between 7 and 10 days go by where he's been gone and escaped. And I look over there one day, just again, longing for him to come home. And my eyes go wide. And he's sitting on the outside of the enclosure, just hanging out. And I'm like, there's no fucking way you went on a vagabond quest in my bedroom, survived for a week to 10 days, and came back to the enclosure. Now, I've kind of figured what might happen is as it was colder, I would keep the heat light turned on, hoping it would keep a warm enough area for him to reside around, and that's what I was doing. And lo and behold, it worked. I almost cried, but I got him. I got him back in the enclosure with a lot of effort. I got him back in there, and I slammed the door shut, and I just took a step back and just like reeled with emotion. Like, I cannot believe you actually went out, survived, and came back. Because I looked around my entire room. I was shining my flashlight all over the carpet, all over my curtains, all over. If you guys have seen my room, my walls are covered in acoustic paneling and posters and stuff. And I searched every microscopic inch that I possibly could, but he was somewhere. He was somewhere. And he came back home, and I have never felt so good. And so he was fine. And I kept doing that enclosure, and what I did was I immediately bought a new enclosure, one that had one small fault point that I could very easily remedy, and then I did, and I modified it and I made it work, and it was perfect. I moved him to his new enclosure, and we're into December, and I've had him since, again, September 26th, and he's doing good. I'm feeding him every day, or not every day. I'm feeding him as I should be feeding him. I'm hand feeding him sometimes. I'm using tweezers to hold a living fruit fly to him, and he snatches it from the tweezers and he eats it. So I know he's eating. I know he's drinking. So I'm spraying the enclosure, and he's going around collecting water from the sides. He's collecting condensation, and everything is good. Then one day, he's molting. I see him in the corner. I go, oh, hell yeah, he's molting. He's going to get even bigger. He's going to be like maybe almost time to like engage with him a little bit might be able to start getting him bigger food, like little like grubs and crickets and stuff like that. And then he's in his enclosure for days, almost a week or so, and which can happen. They can stay in there for a week, for multiple weeks. They can just be in there. They can be in there for 2 days. Who knows? But he's in there, and I'm keeping an eye on him every day. And then eventually he comes back out, and I go, okay, cool. So this is like, again, first week of December. He comes at the end of the first week of December. He comes out of his cocoon, and he's molted. He's a tiny bit bigger. I go, oh, fuck yes, this is great. He's getting to be like the size of my pinky nail, kind of thing, almost. And he's hanging out on the outside of the wall. I fill it with a bunch of fruit flies, so he has his pick, and he can like more easily secure one, because the enclosure is still a little bit big for him, so him being able to hunt for one is still a little bit difficult. So I put them everywhere, and I do see that there are fruit flies in small webs he's made. So I go, okay, he's caught them. He's definitely caught them. He's eaten some. He's doing well. He's still drinking. This is great. Things are looking up. And I see him before I go to work. I check on all my pets before I go to work. I check on the spider to make sure I know where he is and to make sure he's okay. I check on the bunnies to make sure I know where they are and that they're okay, because I've had the bunnies get themselves stuck in places before that if I didn't see them, they would have been stuck all day, kind of thing. So I have a habit to check on all that stuff before I leave for work, before I leave for anywhere. I check on all of my pets. Um, and actually, I do need to make a correction. I never owned any kind of like lizard or anything until recently. I actually had a quote unquote pet salamander for about a year, because I rescued him from the cold at my work, and I put him in a glass container, and he's currently hibernating. So like I have a salamander, but he's not like a typical pet. He's just kind of like in a tank of dirt hanging out. Anyway, so I go through and I see him before I go to work. I check on him before I go to work, and this is December 12th, the day before my birthday. I check on him, and he's in there, he's hanging out, and he's clung to the side of the wall, and he looks fine. I come back home from work, I go to check on him. He's in the same spot, but he's dangling with one leg attached to the wall and the rest of his legs in a death curl. So he detached from the wall, all of his legs curled up, except his hind left leg was still glued, quote unquote, to the wall and holding himself there. And he was like falling backwards, one leg stuck to the wall and the rest of his legs in a death curl. And my heart sank. I looked over at him, and I just couldn't believe it for a second. I said his name. Obviously, he's not going to respond, but I said his name. I opened it up, and I just kind of like got a closer look, and like I was like, yeah, he's dead. Speck just died. So I immediately panic, and I go out to the kitchen, and there's no easy way to really grab a spider that small. I couldn't really reach into the enclosure because it's small, and I couldn't use my tweezer. I'm not gonna use my tweezers to grab him. I don't want to crush him, especially if he's possibly still alive. If there's a small chance he's still alive, I'm not gonna crush him. So I go out to the kitchen, and I grab a spoon, and I use that to kind of like scoop underneath him and gently pull him off the wall. His leg didn't detach or anything like that, but I pulled him off the wall, and I got him in the spoon, and yeah, he was just fully dead. So I brought him out to Dylan and Nin, because Dylan just got home from work, so Nin came out there to greet him, and I showed it to them. I was like, guys, Nin's dead. Guys, Speck's dead. And I had to report on that. and I didn't really know what to do. I started going through my mind of like, what went wrong? He just molted. He was eating. He was drinking. He wasn't stressed. He was warm. I kept the enclosure at like 70 degrees. I kept it between 66 and 72, depending on how cold it was in the room, how long I kept the heat lamp on for. And everything seemed fine, but he still died anyway. And that's really the problem of getting a hatchling and a jumping spider in general. They can just die. They're just spiders, they're not like a cat. The cat doesn't just die for no reason. I mean, obviously there's a reason, but I didn't really know what to do, so I set him on top of at the bottom of the enclosure on a rock that's in there. And I kind of rotate him over so he'd be on his belly kind of thing, even though he was death curled. And I kind of looked at him, and I could, even though he's so small, I could tell his eyes weren't open, kind of thing. I could tell like not that his eyes weren't open, because I don't think spiders really blink. Um, I mean, maybe some spiders do. I don't know. I don't think they have eyelids, but his eyes were there, but I could tell that they weren't full. His eyes didn't have any life to them. And again, he's very small, so I couldn't really tell his expressions anyway, but I could just look at him and see that there was nothing there. And it was really sad. I was heartbroken. And obviously I did some small research and just saw that they can just die, especially after a molt. A molt can be particularly stressful for a spider, and that can just cause them to die from stress. They might refuse to eat, they might refuse to drink for some reason after a molt, and then they'll die from that. So 95% chance there was nothing that I did wrong to cause it, but he still passed, and I'm really sad. I did leave him on the rock, and I even grabbed the fruit fly, killed the fruit fly, but I didn't crush it enough to where it wouldn't be edible. And I laid that down in front of him, so like right in his face, so just in case he was still alive, he could be like, ooh, food, and grab it and get some energy and be okay. Wasn't the case. So I did buy a little like a little tiny ampoule, like a little glass, um uh, not like an ampoule, but like just a little jar thing, but it's really small. It's like an inch. It's like an inch by half an inch diameter. And I put him in that as like his little resting place, and he's on my shelf behind me. And now I'm just kind of sitting here knowing that I'm eventually I'm going to get another jumping spider. I mean, I invested money into these fucking enclosures, so I'm going to get another one. Hell, I might get two because I have two enclosures. And I'm going to have to buy two adults and keep them separate, obviously, because they'll cannibalize each other. Um, yeah, I'm going to have to do that. And I'm really sad. Again, that was December 12th. Today's the 21st. He passed on the 12th, and I only had him for a couple months, but I love the little dude. And, I wish I could have watched him grow up all the way, but unfortunately, that's just how it goes. So, that was my first jumping spider experience. It was traumatic for everybody, but I did the best I could, and I think I treated him well, considering. And all he wanted to do was escape. Well, you finally escaped. You escaped your body, and your soul is now running amok in this bedroom. So, rest in peace, Speck. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see videos of Speck, I have a few that I posted on my channel. Again, it's actually I changed my channel name from Lincoln's Legion to AH Lincoln. I went back to AH Lincoln. So the link is in the description, of course. So thank you guys for listening or watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.